Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this first show of Powered for Mr. SP3. He is the Oracle of Wrestling, and he is here now on Powered 4. Mate, you gave me such a wonderful intro in your show. I was never going to be able to top it on your end. So it was always going to be, B plus player, as Triple H said to Daniel Bryan. That's where I'm coming in on this one. B plus altogether there. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. Our first episode of Powered 4 SP3. We're going to have a lot of fun, John. And I warn you in advance, I sometimes get a little heated. That's why I'm one of the co-hosts of True Heel Heat. So you might get a couple of heated responses from me when you get to certain topics, I think.
I think that's why we wanted you. I think that's the premise that I went after. You know, someone who's going to give it back as much as I'm going to be able to give it to them as well. So that's good. As long as it works both ways, I think we're fine on this one. So yeah, great to have you all the way from New York, of course. Here in the UK, where I am, there's a little bit of snow, and it's causing mayhem. I'm not sure why. It's not that bad, if I'm totally honest with you. It's not that bad compared to anybody else. But the slightest little bit of snow we get in the UK, and everything stops completely, more than it already has in all this as it is anyway. So yeah, great to have everyone with us. If you want to drop us a comment or anything in the comments on YouTube and Facebook, feel free to. We will get to them whenever we can. And we've got a few topics coming up. And I've really put Mr. SP3 right in it with this one. I've given him zero chance to have any production notes in a lot of ways here. So you're going to get a very natural response. This is an uncomfortable thing, but I think he's up for the challenge. And the most biggest talking point, I have to say, coming out of last Friday has to be Edge possibly challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I don't know what you feel about it, because I know a lot of people were saying, you know, it's got to be Drew McIntyre. That was like going around for ages. I've got to be honest, I didn't see how that would work, because they're both baby faces, unless they were going to do something crazy in between. But what was your take into what happened on SmackDown? And is that was WWE testing, or is this the way they plan to go all along?
Well, Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer, I believe Radio, he said that he was the first one that reported that Edge will face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37. Now, as far as my opinion of it, I think that, yeah, it kind of looks like from, the outside looking in that WWE is trying to test the waters with each person. And I think across the three shows, Raw, NXT, and SmackDown, the interactions between Edge and Roman Reigns were the best. So even if this was like the number one idea and they were testing the waters, I think the test came out that they were right with their initial thought that Edge and Roman Reigns is the match to go by. I think that Edge made a good Royal Rumble winner because you can realistically see him versing any of the guys. Well, except for Finn Balor on NXT. I'm sorry, NXT fans. I don't see it. I don't see the rated R superstar Edge coming back for the title he never lost 10 years later and going for the third brand title. That would be like someone winning the Royal Rumble, going for the ECW title in 2007. Like Undertaker was realistically going to pick Bobby Lashley. Get the heck out of here. Edge is not going to pick Finn Balor. Like that's besides the point. I think Edge and Drew McIntyre make a very interesting matchup. You can realistically see Edge going for the spear, then he gets hit with the Claymore, 1, 2, 3. You can see the battle of the spears between Edge and Roman, but because of the character work of Roman Reigns and how he reacted to Edge's mind games, which is something that Edge has been known for well over 15 years now, I think that makes for the better matchup. And that's the biggest possible matchup out of everybody that's active on the roster right now that WWE can give us at WrestleMania. So it just makes sense.
Man, you saying that's just, I don't know how to feel about that, because you saying that is the best match they can give us. No offense to any Edge fan out there, but I just feel like WWE has put this gigantic amount of weight on Edge's back all of a sudden, and he's been thrown in almost as a sort of nostalgia moment You know, we've had Mr. Goldberg come out. Thank goodness that seems to be over for now. I'm hoping, but you never know. And obviously they've got Edge, who is a much better active wrestler, easier on the eye for me than Bill Goldberg. No doubt about that. I'm not disputing that. But there's something to be said where we're having this kind of like guy from the past who's been inducted to the Hall of Fame after a crazy injury. You know, he wasn't going to continue. And now he's the guy who is going to be challenging, in my opinion, the most over guy in some time, Mr. Roman Reigns at the minute. I mean, he is on fire. Everything he touches is turning to gold. And that's been a long time coming for Roman, that's for sure. But it is working out well because finally WWE have made that that press that button finally against, you know, Vince McMahon's better judgment, I'm sure, for all those years. But they have finally just gone with it at a time that we don't have fans, which is the worst time ever. But it's fantastic nonetheless. But I just wonder, like, you know, you saying Edge. I mean, was there anybody else that you could consider? I know Daniel Bryan was another one that would have had like a built-in storyline. Kind of like I would have preferred that one because there's that grey area of kind of reality and fiction, and you can kind of blur the lines. They could have really done a few little shoots at each other, if you will, about how the Royal Rumble from years gone should have been him that won, and fans didn't want Roman. And I think they could have done some good stuff with that. Now I still suspect they'll go with that at another time because there's money in that, but. Was there anybody else out there, or could there be anybody else other than Edge at the moment that they could have gone with as what you say is that marquee WrestleMania match?
So first of all, I didn't say best. I said biggest. That's the biggest match. The best match I think they could give us is like something with Daniel Bryan, because I feel like Daniel Bryan is one of the best wrestlers of the past 2 decades. I thought Daniel Bryan was going to win the Royal Rumble up until Edge's promo on the Go Home Show Raw before the Royal Rumble. But when you look at it like side by side, Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns or Edge versus Roman Reigns. Just look at it on paper. Ask your casual fan, ask your fan that slaps, ask your non-wrestling fan, what match draws to them more? They're going to say Edge and Roman Reigns because they probably know Edge from when they were watching. They know Edge from the Attitude Era. They know Roman Reigns as The Rock's cousin. That's a more mainstream type of matchup to put on the marquee to be the headline at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan, yeah, I think Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns would have great chemistry in the ring. They've had great matches in the past, and I think their character work right now would work well against one another, especially with their history from 5-6 years ago. However, Daniel Bryan does not have the momentum. Even before the Royal Rumble, even if he won the Royal Rumble, he didn't have momentum going into that. Like, he's lost to everybody, it seems, like Jey Uso, Cesaro, Shinsuke Nakamura. He lost to Cesaro in 4 minutes on SmackDown. That's not a guy that's going to be main eventing WrestleMania. And I'm the biggest Daniel Bryan fan. I've seen Daniel Bryan at least 5-6 years before he came to the WWE. So I followed along with the journey. WrestleMania 30 is like one of my favorite WrestleManias just for Daniel Bryan, the guy that I saw start from the bottom. Now he's actually here, main eventing, winning the world titles at WrestleMania. But this is not 5-6 years ago. That matchup was a marquee WrestleMania main event type matchup 5-6 years ago. Right now, it's not. Edge has the momentum. Edge has the story. Edge has the type of character that would play well off of Roman, and they're great on the mic. I just think that this is the match to go with.
Well, you know, I'll wait and see. I mean, I think it's going to be a spectacle, and I mean, maybe you know, putting words in your mouth with the best. Maybe it is the biggest. That's what they're going for with this one. But I don't know. I just wish maybe they'd been a bit more creative. And you saying about, you know, there's no stock in Bryan. I mean, that is, for me, that's typical WWE booking. I mean, like, they do get these guys out of thin air, and you think, well, they haven't done much to give them anything, but they're just thrown in at the main event. You know, it's happened to Kevin Owens a hell of a lot of times. So, you know, you never know what WWE are going to bring up to you. But yeah, this will be a fascinating. I suppose you've got time as well to build something. I hope that they really, maybe after February possibly and getting into March, that they kind of let Edge and Roman battle it out in a cool feud that's not just, you know, the generic stuff. Because I think there's a lot of stuff they can do with Roman, especially with Paul Heyman as well. And maybe they can really, I don't know, like dig in against Edge, you know, like find some stuff on him and bring that old past. I would just like it if there was a bit of that brought in about the reason he had to go last time and why this would be, you know, the wrong person to pick. But we'll see what WWE come up with nonetheless. I think, you know, look, it's not a bad match. I still think it's better than Drew versus Edge. 100%. I'm taking it over that. I was not looking forward to that. That does lead me to another question, though, just quickly, SB3. Who would be now the ideal opponent then for Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, if he makes it there, of course?
A month or 2 months ago, I probably would have said Sheamus, because that's where they said they were building to, and it looked like they were building to. And then, oh man, yeah, this is one of those rants I was warning you about.
Here he goes. Here he goes. Get ready for it.
This Monday's Raw, the good part. This past Monday's Raw, you know, before tonight, this past Monday's Raw was one of the better episodes of Raw. That's not saying much. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Raw is the classroom. You know, you're the science teacher, and your highest mark is a 68. That's the curve. It's graded on the curve. So if it's a like a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 show for like an AEW, a SmackDown, an NXT, that's like a 7 out of 10, an 8 out of 10 for Raw. So that's what this past week was really for me. However, first of all, Edge and Orton, they had been building this rivalry for well over a year. This rivalry 3 months ago was supposed to be the main event of WrestleMania in an I Quit match for the WWE Championship. How did we go from the main event of WrestleMania to them advertising an hour into the show that they were going to have their one final matchup? Why? Why you couldn't announce that on Twitter? I would have preferred you to announce it on Twitter before the show. And then to double down on that and to make it worse, Randy Orton lost due to Alexa Bliss dribbling her chocolate milk. Like it just doesn't make any sense at all that rivalry, which are good friends over at Wrestling Travel, their fans voted for the 2020 feud of the year, it gets blown off without advertised, without promotion, out of nowhere. That just makes no sense. Second of all, why would you build the last 2 months of Raw? The main program has been Drew and Sheamus. Oh, they've been friends for decades. Drew and Sheamus. Oh, Sheamus is going on the good side. He's actually becoming friends with Keith Lee. Drew and Sheamus. And then out of nowhere, he just randomly kicks him in the face. Bro kick. They're done. I'm not his friend anymore. I won his title. It just, like, give us a reason, WWE. Give us like they got into an argument. Sheamus is costing Drew something. Give us something. Don't just randomly, after 2 months of dedication, just randomly blow off a storyline like that. The Raw was just bookended by very frustrating angles and storylines. I would have said Sheamus 2 months ago. Now, unfortunately, and I know people are not going to be happy by this, there's no one on the Raw roster to verse Drew McIntyre. So the best person to verse Drew McIntyre is Brock Lesnar. Have him beat Brock Lesnar in the Raymond James Stadium like he was supposed to do last year, in front of fans this time at WrestleMania 37.
Agreed. I would go with that. I hope you feel better after that. You know, you were very passionate there about that one. So I hope this has done you a service as well as the show. I would go with that. I've been talking about Brock Lesnar for ages. I'm like, they got all this money now from Peacock. What do you want to spend some of that money on? Get Brock in. We know he's gonna, you know, he's all about the money. He'll come back if the cash is right. So you know, I think they're missing him. If they don't get him for WrestleMania, I'm going to be kind of disappointed anyway, because I just think he's box office, no matter who he's against sometimes, you know. So just a quick plug there. You mentioned Wrestling Travel, our friends over there. Going to give them a plug. Of course, if anybody wants to go and experience wrestling at WrestleMania or New Japan, great people to go with. They're our friends over at, of course, Wrestling Travel. They do some fantastic packages. So yeah, I want to encourage people to go over there. And next, I am now going to throw a huge curveball to Mr. SB3 and ask him the most diabolical question that could have come your way, the most random thing. But we're going to try and do this every week. And I'm going to try and set him up so that he's got no idea. But what if is what we're going with. And this week I'm going to suggest, what if roles were reversed in 1997 of the Survivor Series? And yes, Bret Hart actually stayed in the WWF then, and Mr. Shawn Michaels was the one on the receiving end and would have to then, of course, probably end up at WCW. So yes, that would mean Bret retaining the title, continuing on. Where would that have gone in terms of both their careers and, of course, setting up a WrestleMania 14?
I still think we get Stone Cold Steve Austin winning at WrestleMania 14, the WWF Championship. I thought originally, if the screw job never happened at all, that Bret versus Austin is a bigger matchup for Austin to win his first WWF Championship over Austin versus Shawn. I feel like Austin versus Shawn, in retrospect, is only big because of the Mike Tyson involvement. But because you have the whole year-long story of Austin battling with the Hart Foundation, the double turn at WrestleMania 13, the whole feud that kind of started in 1996 and then blowing off 2 years later at WrestleMania 14, it would have felt bigger for Austin. However, coming out of WrestleMania 14 in this scenario, you don't have the ready-made rival for Austin. You don't have Mr. McMahon, because that is the key with this what-if scenario, John, that if Vince screws HBK instead of Bret, we never get Mr. McMahon, because the reason why we got Mr. McMahon is because people hated Vince for doing that to Bret in Bret's hometown, because Bret was so loyal to him, because Bret was such a good employee. Bret never had politics. Bret was the poster boy for the WWF for so long. On the other hand, Shawn Michaels, my friends, because you said, what if Vince screwed Shawn Michaels? Right. You never said, what if Shawn Michaels was Bret Hart? Because if we are just saying Vince McMahon screws Shawn Michaels, I honestly feel there would be some people on Vince McMahon's side in this situation, because they would be like, well, Shawn did this. Shawn told Bret to get the F out the ring at WrestleMania 12. Shawn tried to say that Bret had an affair with Sonny. So it's like mountains and mountains and mountains of things that Shawn Michaels has done. The year before that, Shawn Michaels basically lost his smile or had a knee injury and didn't want to return the favor to Bret at WrestleMania 13. They could have pointed right to that and being like, that's why Vince screwed Shawn, because he wouldn't play ball with Bret and with Vince. So they turned it back on him just 6 months later and they screwed him. So if this what if scenario was to come to fruition, a few things would happen. Shawn Michaels would not be, hailed as this hero. Shawn Michaels also, I think, would have had a better run in WCW. He would have had a better run in WCW because you just keep him with the same booking that you gave Bret. It made no sense for Bret the Hitman Hart to join the NWO. Bret the Hitman Hart was the consummate good guy. He had been screwed over by his former employee, and then he joins up with all the guys that left the former employee. It just didn't make any sense at all. But Shawn joining with the NWO, joining with his former Clique members, I think would have been more successful. We would have got Hogan versus Shawn a lot earlier than we did, without the dramatics and the over-the-top selling of Shawn Michaels in 2005.
Good God, yeah.
We probably don't get the Goldberg kick to the head of Shawn Michaels like we did of Bret. So then Bret doesn't hate Goldberg for the next 25 years. So yeah, it's a lot of things. But the one thing that is the biggest con with this scenario is that we don't get Mr. McMahon. That's the biggest thing. We don't get Mr. McMahon because Mr. Vince McMahon is not going to be hated for screwing Sean like he was for screwing Brett.
You know what? Just as you're summing that up, and it's a good I think what would likely happen, especially Sean with the NWO with his buddies. Man, he would have probably broke the streak. He'd have probably got Kevin to sort that out earlier. But imagine as well, Vince McMahon, he would have probably come off as a baby face in all this after everything he's done. So maybe he would have become the biggest baby face ever. And then they have to find the ultimate heel for him to go up against, and it's a complete U-turn. But of course, I would have loved to have seen Stone Cold and Brett at 14, the rematch from 13. Like, just imagine what those two guys would have done again, having perfected such an iconic match that we always look back on. One of probably the most weakest WrestleManias, WrestleMania 13, but it always is going to stand the test of time with that match. So. I think that's a good scenario of what's come out. I threw that one at you. Not bad, Mr. SB3. I'll give that one over to you. But I just think I could just imagine it now. Vince is just, it's like WrestleMania 10 with Brett on people's arms, cheering for the belt. This time it's Vince. It's like, yeah, go Vince. Undertaker lifting him up. It's like, you're the one. Yeah, you're my hero. Vince is the greatest boss in the world for that.
The other interesting thing with the Brett and Austin situation, Austin never beat Brett. He never beat him one-on-one. Brett won at Survivor Series 1996. Brett won at WrestleMania 13. I think they had like a disqualification finish the next month at In Your House, but one-on-one, Austin never got his win. So I feel like because around that time, that was when Brett signed that new contract. So I think the plan was for there to be Brett versus Austin for the title at WrestleMania 14. But because Vince couldn't pay Brett, that's why we have the scenario for the what if.
Absolutely. Well, so it's a good conclusion. Well, back to reality, folks. After that, of course, we can always, it's always nice to kind of go back and think about those things. But back to reality, Mr. SB3, you are the man. You are the oracle, of course. You're what I would consider the A side of the cassette. And me, I'm just merely the B. So I do not have as much information as what you do have every week on, of course, True Heel Heat. When I recommend people go over to the YouTube and check that out. You'll see lots of SP3 there, along with everybody else as well. But they drop stuff, a lot of things, pretty much every day, right? So, I mean, you're going to get your fix on just about everything, not just WWE. But, I just wanted to spend some time on last week's ratings just to see where we are, because, again, it's one of those things, I think, with ratings where you can look at them now, being a long-time fan, and think, cool, where's it all gone? Where have those people gone? But of course, like we both said on our friends over at Wrestling Travel, they've just done a deal with Peacock in probably their worst creative time ever, and they're still able to get 1 billion. So they can't be doing too bad, I guess, in that measuring stick. But what are the ratings around for the WWE and AEW and the likes?
As I like to call it, successful mediocrity. That's what WWE excels in. Successful mediocrity.
Doing a good job.
So last Monday's WWE Raw did 1.892 million viewers. That is slightly up, not really a big increase for them, especially coming off of the Raw Rumble, which is highly considered one of their like top rated, and like the audience comes back for Raws every single year. This year, not so much. Still below the 2 million mark, which they were able to hit for the Legends Night Monday Night Raw at the beginning of January. Unfortunately, for the beginning of February, 1.892 million. So, I mean, I know that there are some fans and analysts that kind of want to point this out to like criticize him, but it is worth mentioning that Edge was back on this show. Edge had won the Raw Rumble, and this is similar to, the slight up in ratings, but not too up, not the bump that they're looking for. It seems to be a theme with Edge coming back from last year. Last year, they expected a huge bump, especially with the big Edge return coming out of Royal Rumble 2020, and they didn't see that. And it's similar here in 2021, unfortunately for them. So then you got SmackDown with 2.126 million viewers. That is the SmackDown with Edge on the show. This is also slightly up as well. The main event, I guess you would consider, was the triple threat match with Sami Zayn, Big E, and Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. You also had the Edge and Roman Reigns face off, with Edge supposedly supposed to announce his opponent for WrestleMania. Did 2.126 million viewers. WWE NXT on Wednesday night did 610,000 viewers. It was actually ranked 197th on cable for the night. So this is another, what I said, with analysts and fans kind of making it an indictment against his Edge's star power, because they did advertise Edge for this show, a WWE Hall of Famer, a guy from the main roster, the winner of the Royal Rumble, coming on to NXT, and them not even seeing a slight bump. I mean, I said it on True Hill Heat last week, True Hill Heat 111. They should have done something to set up Edge for the following week, because what we've been seeing with the Wednesday night ratings in particular is that nothing takes effect on the week of. It's always the week following. So last week's AEW and NXT ratings, they were only separated by like 14,000, and that was because AEW had a weaker show 2 weeks ago. So the following week, it was very close in the ratings because AEW was coming off probably the weakest show of the year so far, and that's why the ratings were close. This week, not so much, because AEW had a strong show last week. They had a big advertised show this week with Beach Break. So AEW Dynamite did 844,000 viewers. They beat NXT by 234,000 viewers. They were rated in the top 50 on cable for the night. They did over a 0.3 in the 18 to 49 key demo. Really strong ratings for AEW for one of their better promoter shows for Beach Break. And of course, like I said, everything's going to follow up the week prior. And because AEW ended off with a hot angle with the great main event between Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, defeating Moxley, Pac, and Phoenix, along with Kenta from New Japan Pro Wrestling and the Bullet Club debuting on the show, and him going to be in the main event this coming week, I think that we're going to see probably the same gap or even a bigger gap and a bigger rating for AEW this coming week.
Wow. Well, there you go. Said it in a nutshell. What more can you say? I mean, are you concerned about ratings, or do you not really take too much notice of them? Because, if WWE keep harping on, it doesn't matter. We've got all the advertisers. And then AEW will go to another extreme. They'll talk about the demographic as being the most important thing, and that key demographic, that university student that they seem to want. I mean, they were doing shows around universities specifically. I remember when they were first coming about, and that was done on purpose. And obviously they wanted that market. But I can't help but think, do you know what, WWE, whether I like the product, as long as they've got kids liking it, they're always going to be fine to a degree, because the kids buy the stuff, and the kids, even if it's just a small handful, stay on and continue for this crazy journey. Or perhaps they grow out of it and, wrestling's too much, who knows. I still think that market shouldn't be underestimated. I know AEW like that kind of demo, that key demo, but for me, I'm just kind of WWE, as long as they got these children buying their stuff, why are they going to come away from it? Where do you sit with that? What is, I suppose, the most important thing in your eyes when we're looking at ratings? Because we know, let's be honest, they ain't what they used to be. Where have those people gone? We don't know. There is a different habit in watching and viewing. We know streaming has come along. We don't know how people are digesting and what the stuff anymore, the content. But where do you sit with that? Where is the importance for you?
I think when, especially as wrestling fans, when you're developing your opinion, you need facts to go along to, make your opinion. So ratings is facts, it's factual evidence, it's statistics that you can use to form an opinion and have the type of analyst that people expect on podcasts like this. So, you know, like I said, like I take note of stuff like the ratings on Wednesday night. If they have a weaker show, if they have a better show, it always takes into effect next week. If what I've known with the ratings, especially with the Wednesday Night Wars and following those ratings for the past 60 something weeks, is that WWE has an issue, because I understand what you said, and 10, 15 years ago, you would have been right. Unfortunately, you're not right anymore. WWE doesn't have a strong demographic of kids that are into the product anymore. In actuality, WWE, Raw, and SmackDown, their average medium age of the person that watches it, give me a guess.
You know what? I'm going to say over 35. 35
50,
to 40. That's my range.
57 years old. What's the average medium age for NXT? You know, all the younger stars, developmental, the more critically acclaimed show. What do you think the medium age is for NXT?
I've got to say that's got to be... I mean, my perception of it is younger. I'm going to go 30 plus. 30, 31.
58.
Damn. Wow. God, that's shocking.
AEW.
That is shocking.
The reason why AEW stresses the 18 to 49 key demo the way that they do is because their average medium age is between 35 to 40. Their average medium age is like 36, 37 years old. So you have a 20-year gap, and a lot of that has to do with the stars they are presenting. Who are the stars on the rise for AEW? You got your MJF, 24 years old. You got your Jungle Boy, 23 years old. You got your Darby Allin, 27. You got, so, you know, there's so many young stars over there that they're making and they're building, and you feel like you're following along with their journey. Take the Royal Rumble as your counterpoint. Do you know what was the average medium age for the men's Royal Rumble?
Man, I mean, this is heartbreaking every time I'm throwing out something. So I'm going to come off this and have to lay down. Okay, I'm going to... I mean, after those last two, I guess I've got to go...
Don't go through that. It's not as old as their medium age watching. You know, there is some young guys in the WWE. But what was the medium age, the average age of a participant in the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble?
Okay, let's throw it out. I mean, I'm going to say 32.
35, I believe. It's 35, 36 years old. Do you know how many 20-year-olds they had in the Men's Royal Rumble out of 30 participants?
It'll take me too long to think all the way through those participants. I'm going to say, I would hazard a guess, none of them.
2. You were close.
2.
You were close. Wow. You were close with 0.
Yeah.
Okay, 2. Dominic Mysterio and Otis.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And Otis was 29. So, yeah, WWE, they don't. And the women's division is totally the opposite. The women's division, they got Rhea Ripley, who's 24. They got Toni Storm, who's 25. So they have young stars in the women's division. It's the men's division is just like, you have someone new get called up, like Damian Priest. Damian Priest is 38 years old. 38 years old. That's why when people were comparing Edge shaking his hand and putting over that young new star to The Undertaker, putting over the young new star John Cena.
It should be his dad.
Everybody was like, John Cena was 25. Damian Priest is 38.
No, I mean, I think you got a point there. I mean, I'm thinking back to Brock when he broke in. You know, he was the youngest champion at that time, and they were really looking for youth. And you know, I know when John Cena got it, Batista was a lot older than him at the time, but Batista even seems young. I mean, he seems like a youth compared to what we're talking about here. So, yeah, that's made me quite depressed, to be honest with you. I mean, it seems to me like we've got fans that just have stayed loyal for so long that they're never going to go away no matter what is presented to them. and that's what WWE is hanging everything on. So it's a dangerous game because you are not creating any opportunities for new people, your casual viewers that are just coming by for anything else. So okay, well, with that summed up, I'm gonna get out of here after that. We've got nothing to hang around for. We'll be straight back after this little advert.
We are about the love of pro wrestling. To re-watch our favorite wrestlers' moments. To live and breathe through the eyes of their opponents.
I swear I'm going to come at you like the pit bull that everyone thinks I am. I'm going to come at you harder and tougher than you've ever experienced before.
Under my belt and prove to people that I'm not just a model, that Mariah May is more than just a pretty face and they can't just kick me around. I actually can prove myself and I can wrestle, and I worked hard to be here.
So it sounds like
Scared! I love it! I don't care if you want to step in the ring with me. John Scott, is it? I remembered your name. You get my name right, hey?
It is an absolute joke that you would stand there and ask us that question, that anybody here thinks they even have to ask us that question, and that anyone out there would doubt us. So the next time you want to ask me that question, just read the fucking tweet and the context. You're wasting our time.
Thank you.
All right, we're back, and don't forget Powered4SP3. Sign up now, and look, we're here with the man himself. Use this code 50% off when you sign up using this code SP3. It's as simple as that. Go over 25 promotions at your disposal. Have a look on there. Loads of free content as well, and it's one of these places you can go to. You haven't got to put any details in. You can see everything that's available. There's no hidden stuff. You can see exactly what you're going to get for your money. So go and check that out. Use this special code now. Of course, SP3. Simple as that, Now, after that depressing end to the last part about ratings, man, I don't know if we're going to ask that next week because, geez, we're in a different. I thought it was bad until that. It's worse. So yeah, we're gonna talk away from WWE now just for a little bit, but we are going to go back to a WrestleMania theme in a sec. But we've got SP3. Any news from in and around other places at the moment? I know you're a big New Japan fan, and I love New Japan wrestling. I can't say I watch it as much as I should do, but at one time that's all I ever watched. I know recently they've announced their TV deal with I think Roku, which is exciting for us because, man, that website, I tell you, to be able to use that New Japan website is a nightmare at times because especially if you can't turn that language. I mean, geez, you could be anywhere. You could be paying for goodness knows what. My friend had a very bad experience of that as well.
Really?
I think about 140 quid later. So. Yeah, how big is this news for New Japan? And I mean, I suppose at the moment it's hard to tell if they were going to do more tours, but I suppose that's what they're angling on when things get back to some sort of normality, that they would have more fans. And they always do well in the UK. Whenever they're here, they always do very well. And that's there's not a lot of promoting that goes on beforehand. They just literally show up and everybody just goes. So there is a core audience for them.
Well, I think they just, UK has always been known for loving great professional wrestling. And I think the place that has kind of made that their hallmark over the past decade has been New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think the deal with the Roku channel is huge for them because it puts eyes that wouldn't regularly go out of their way to watch New Japan, and they may accidentally press on it going through their Roku channel. They may be trying to watch Degrassi, The Next Generation, and then click on New Japan Pro Wrestling and see a Wrestle Kingdom match. So, the US, the UK, and Canada have wanted more accessibility for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and this is just going to help them exponentially.
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting and a good deal for them going forward. I know that they would do when Ring of Honor would come to the UK, they'd often use a lot of the New Japan stars at the time, and we saw loads of those. Justin Thunder Liger was there last time, as I recall, and it was just amazing stuff. But I mean, they've really, I think, now got to the point where they can run some big venues in the UK. And, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're going for. What's the latest kind of news? I'm hearing a lot of good things about Impact Wrestling. It's one of those promotions, unfortunately, I've given up on because they were so stop-start a few years ago. I just thought they were changing directions so many times, like month to month, and then some wrestlers would disappear that I'd invested all this time in. But at the moment, people are telling me it's pretty consistent. Is that the case?
Yeah, I've been saying it on whatever podcast I appear on that Impact Wrestling has kind of been on the rise since early 2018, since they made the regime change and put Scott D'Amore and Don Callis in power creatively. They just have been picking up momentum, giving quality pay-per-views. Their pay-per-views are always on the money, always give you entertaining action, always have good to great matches on them, and they've just been very, very consistent. This whole partnership with AEW has even drawn up the buzz in regards to Impact Wrestling because people want to know what's going to happen next. Kenny Omega just got a victory last month against Rich Swann, who is the Impact World Champion. Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion. T's going after other titles. So is he going to come back? His symbol is actually used in the graphic, the logo for their next pay-per-view on April 24th called Impact Rebellion. So there's the interest there. But you can also see kind of young stars developing, like we talked about previously with WWE. They lack those young stars outside of the women's division. Impact Wrestling definitely has a few young stars that they are building behind, like Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and then the guy that just recently came back, Trey Miguel. And the fact that Trey Miguel had offers from AEW and WWE and chose to stay and re-sign with Impact Wrestling, that's huge for them. That's a guy that they should put all their backing behind because he's a guy that chose them. He could have went anywhere in the world. He could have been with MSK in NXT. He could have been in Jacksonville on AEW Dynamite, but he chose to stay in Impact Wrestling. They seem to be, giving him a little bit of a push in a feud with Sami Callihan. So there's a lot of interest there. And then we got this weekend, No Surrender, which has a huge AEW versus Impact Wrestling matchup as Private Party with Matt Hardy will get a shot at the Impact World Tag Team titles of the Good Brothers. So that's going to get a lot of attention. You also got Rich Swann versus Tommy Dreamer for the Impact World Championship on Tommy Dreamer's 50th birthday. And I was actually privileged enough to talk to Tommy Dreamer and D'Lo Brown this past week and ask them a little bit about that. And Tommy Dreamer kind of clapped back against the haters, the people that have been criticizing Edge out there, criticizing Goldberg, and then instantly look at Tommy Dreamer over on Impact and be like, oh, they're doing the same thing. They're putting over a 50-year-old guy in the main event. And he basically said to his haters, I'm sorry, I'm 50 years old and I still wrestle. So he wants to win. He sounds like he wants to win the Impact World Championship. He has gone on record and said that he hasn't answered quite yet. So that's why we got to watch Impact on Access this week to find out what Tommy Dreamer is going to say to Rich Swann, and is he going to accept the world title match at No Surrender. So bunch of good things going on in Impact Wrestling right now.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it sounds it. Maybe I'll have to watch again. I don't know. There's so much wrestling. I haven't got time sometimes to invest in another, but I'd like to. But I just don't know if I can do it. You know, it's like I'm not sure. Okay, now just quickly, we've been talking a lot about WWE, and after that very depressing ratings, I'm going to throw out a question that quite a few people have asked me that have only watch wrestling and mainly WWE around this time of the year. That is, of course, the road to WrestleMania. But my question is, does the classic road to WrestleMania mean anything in 2021? And what I mean by that is, of course, I think we've got two pay-per-views in the middle of all this. You know, there's two champions now as well. So does the Royal Rumble mean as much as it should? We even have two Rumbles, in fact, with the female male. So there's lots of ways now to earn that title shot more than there ever used to be. So I think it takes away the specialty of WrestleMania. And, you know, I can't remember the last time I really sat back as a fan and enjoyed a road to WrestleMania. Maybe ones that spring to my mind are like WrestleMania 26, when you had Vince and Brett in their feud. You had John Cena and Batista, and I enjoyed those little promos they were doing to each other. I think Jericho and Edge was another match, and Taker and Michaels. I remember enjoying that. I also remember WrestleMania 21. They had the Hollywood theme. Yeah. You'd wait every week because you knew you was going to get one of those crazy commercials that they'd done. Then you were going to get a Hall of Fame announcement, and I just remember it being a very good build. You had Batista, who was effectively going to face Triple H, but that feud, the way it got there, took place in that gap, which was pretty cool. And man, when they pushed the button, it was just perfect. The pop they got when Batista done it, we all could see it coming, but it was like a good way of doing it instead of a bad way. And I really enjoyed that. And I think WrestleMania 19 is another. Again, Hogan and Vince were there. That was a crazy angles going on there. You had Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar for the wrestling purists. You had Booker T and Triple H, Shawn Michaels and Jericho. But there was just, you know, and Rock and Austin as well at that one. But there was just so much going on between Rumble to Mania. It just made you want to keep coming back and watching TV. I can't say I feel with these pay-per-views that that's the case. And I think a lot like last year, they didn't start really building towards some of those match feuds until after the last pay-per-view before Mania, which only gave them, I think, 3 weeks in that time. So it's not that long. And I kind of feel like, is WrestleMania the spectacle, the one everyone wants to be on? Or is it just the case now, if you've got a contract, you're likely going to be on it anyway? Even if you're in the Battle Royal, you're going to get in, don't worry. Because, you know, like WrestleMania 19, I watched it the other day and I thought, they signed Scott Steiner that, you know, the year prior, and he didn't make it on the card. You know why? Because he wasn't good enough in those 2 matches against Triple H. They were horrendous. And they just left him off. No, we're not going to have him on there. You've got to be good. Nowadays, I feel like Scott Steiner would be there somewhere. Just to make the numbers up. But do you feel it exists anymore? Does it have people gripped? I know this is a fun time. I know Rumble, there's a lot of fans that come back to watch it, but this gap in between, does it exist, or is it all gone, that magic?
Yeah. I mean, this is now what WrestleMania 31 was great, but the road to WrestleMania 31 was trash. It was a dumpster fire, and that's why people were more surprised that WrestleMania 31 was as great as it was. WrestleMania 32 and the road to Roman versus Triple H and Shane McMahon.
Oh man, I remember that.
Shane McMahon with the lockbox threatening his dad to get a Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. Yeah, WrestleMania 33, we was going to get KO and Jericho, the culmination of their huge blow-off, and they get thrown to the U.S. title, and it's all about Goldberg and Brock, and we thought we were going to get, you know, a three-way of the Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Luke Harper. They throw Luke Harper to the side, give us Bray Wyatt with bugs projected from the ceiling against Randy Orton.
Oh, I remember that. That was terrible.
Road to WrestleMania 34 and Roman versus Brock, the match that nobody wanted and nobody would remember. The only good stuff on that road was the stuff with Ronda. WrestleMania 35 and the convoluted way they got to Becky versus Ronda versus Charlotte.
Man, that was a mess. Yeah,
literally the
was a
last
mess.
road to WrestleMania. And we're not even going to get into last year. That the world went against them to make that a bad road to WrestleMania.
We're letting them off that one. We'll let them off that one, but
we'll let them off easy. But the last one to really hit road to WrestleMania was 2014, the road to WrestleMania 30. Why? Because real life interjected. CM Punk left the day after the Royal Rumble. So that instantly made every fan more interested in how the hell WWE was going to clean up this mess and get us to WrestleMania. That led to them giving us the guy that we wanted in the main event in Daniel Bryan. That led to the great work. The only time Cena and Bray Wyatt had a good rivalry was up until WrestleMania when Cena won. There was so much good stuff going on in that period of time. I remember going to Barclays Center in the middle of the WrestleMania buildup and the fans being so hot for Daniel Bryan. Like, Daniel Bryan wasn't even in the building. He had been beat down by Triple H the week prior, but Triple H was in the ring. Yes, chance. Yes. Like, fans were crazy and they were anticipating and getting ready for WrestleMania. That was the last time that the road to WrestleMania really felt like the road to WrestleMania. I do agree the pay-per-views are an issue. There's too many pay-per-views in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I preferred when it was just the Elimination Chamber. Like, the Elimination Chamber was your only way to get on the WrestleMania card outside of the Royal Rumble. I like that, but adding in Fastlane just give us a 6 to 8 week build until WrestleMania. Have the Elimination Chamber in February and then build it up from there. It just would make WrestleMania feel bigger if you had more time. On the other end of the spectrum, I know we're talking about WWE. And sometimes when WWE doesn't have a pay-per-view within 4 weeks of building to, it gets really, really bad. It gets really, they just throw stuff at the wall and they just try to figure out what's going to stick. And that's an issue. So I think that the road to WrestleMania, we need to find a healthy medium where we have one pay-per-view in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and we can build things from there, and they can come up with interesting things to build from there. Or even if they took, a page out of the AEW book. Don't give us a pay-per-view in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Give us a special episode of Monday Night Raw. You see how well they pop a rating with Legends Night. Give us a special last chance Royal Rumble on a special episode at the end of February, at the beginning of March, which says, the winner of this gets to choose whoever they want to verse at WrestleMania. It doesn't even have to be about titles, doesn't even have to be for a title. The person who wins gets to verse someone at WrestleMania. So then they get to build to that special, and then the special is like their checkpoint before they build to WrestleMania. That would be a healthy medium. But WWE doesn't believe in healthy mediums. It's either their way or get out of the way, it seems. So I think that we are now in this molasses that's this lack of a classic road to WrestleMania in 2021.
Man, you just that line you just said, I could see Vince hearing that and thinking, that's a new slogan. Get out of the way. That's the one. In the way, get out of the way. That is WWE all over. I could see him using that. No, I think you're right. I remember that WrestleMania 30 very well, and it was good because it was reactionary for a change, and they were like listening. I mean, Triple H kept coming out and saying that was always their plan. I'm not so sure that was their plan, especially the fact that he was chucked in that Randy Orton Batista match. I mean, that was their ideal main event, but I don't think for 1 minute Daniel Bryan was supposed to be in that. But it was good because for a change, they listened, they reacted, and they hit the money. Like, that's what made the payoff so special. And while we look back, 6 years ago, whenever it was now, and as such a great momentous occasion, that image is going to stay in your mind. I can't say that for a lot of the other WrestleManias, but that one definitely stays in my mind. So yeah, I'm with you there. I just don't think they produce as well as they used to between shows and kind of build up the anticipation as well as they used to, which is ridiculous because they've never had this much TV time either. So despite all that, they still can't get it right. But nonetheless, okay. Well, we are pretty much at the end of our show. Before we go, though, Mr. SP3, you are not done just yet because I've got a little true or false for you. And by the way, these questions are diabolical. So these are very, very random questions. I don't even think the most diehard, passionate, 24/7 sitting there fan would know some of these, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens, and let's see how you do. I'm gonna take so the first one is true or false. Ric Flair was born in 1949. True or false?
So 1949.
He's thinking hard there. He's trying to work out his age. He's like, hang on.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out his age. I'm gonna say yes, are true.
It is true. Well done, my friend. Well, there you go. You see, that's like a little trick one there. Someone's, but okay. Now, what about we're gonna take a different angle. Bailey started her wrestling career under the name Little Cutie. True or false?
Little Cutie.
Little Cutie.
Little Cutie. That would be funny. I never heard that though, so I'm gonna say false.
You are correct. See again, he's in there. Yeah, there you go. I thought actually her name was Davina Rose at one point.
Yes.
I think that's the one that you would have easily got. But yeah, imagine that. Okay, now here's a good one for you because we know you're a fan of this guy, Bill Goldberg, and I think you're going to get this one. This is the easy one. This is the one I'm just keeping in with what's going on with the whole current affairs here. This is the current affairs one. Okay. Goldberg was once drafted by Los Angeles Rams. True or false?
I didn't brush up on my Bill Goldberg trivia.
I see. I went for Super Bowl here. We've just had the Super Bowl.
I know. That was smart. I know he played for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not too sure the Atlanta Falcons drafted him. I never heard of his connection with the LA Rams, so I'm going to go with false.
It was true. Oh, well, there you go. You learn something every day. You've learned something here every day. I believe he only played like 14 games because that's like part of where he got the huge injury. So he didn't have long there, but that is a thing. Okay, last but not least, we're going east now. We're going to New Japan. New Japan was formed in 1972. True or false?
That is true.
He knew that straight away. It's True Heel Heat went with True. He knew that was coming. So he knows that well, but he knows that birth more than probably his own birthday. New Japan, you see. Mr.
I know
Antonio,
that better than Ric Flair.
Yeah, maybe I should have got an Inoki question in there. That one, I'm sure you would have done well. Well, you're not bad. Not bad. The one I thought you would definitely get, you didn't, but everything else, spot on. So, amazing. Not too bad. It's been a blast having you on, my friend, and chatting wrestling and getting a little bit depressed. But I'm kind of pleased. This is why I saved this till the end because I thought if we go off with those ratings, chat, mate, we might not come back next week, So we had to use that. Don't forget, people, use the code SP3 now to sign up at Powered4SP3 for 50% off the first month. Check it out. You're going to see SP3 over there as well with True Heel Heat and everything else they do. They're great stuff. Mate, let's plug some of your stuff because I know you're all over the place at the moment. You are like you're like the US version of Mike Angus over here. He seems to be on everything these days. He's getting picked up here, there, and everywhere. We can't keep up with him. But where else can we find you, my friend?
Well, you can find me during the week, Wednesday, on the Wrestling Daily YouTube channel at 8 p.m. BST, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, over there with Alex McCarthy. We talk about the latest wrestling news. We get into a healthy wrestling debate. Always a good time. Comment in the live chat. You could become a part of the show. On Friday, I'm going to be over on Sportskeeda Wrestling's YouTube channel, along with Rick hosting Smack Talk, which is their post show following WWE SmackDown. So that's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. BST. I don't know how long you guys stay up after SmackDown.
And he's got the time there, isn't he?
Join me and Rick
Cut it
over
down.
there. Join me and Rick. You can also find us on the Sportskeeda Wrestling Facebook page, and then every single Saturday without end on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. That's TruHeelHeat, True Hill Heat. We are less than 20 subscribers away from 1K, from 1,000 subscribers. So head over there, subscribe to the
Get
YouTube
over there.
channel.
Come on. 20. Come on.
Click
Surely.
the bell. Click the bell, stay notified every single Saturday. We got the True Hill Heat weekly podcast going through the latest wrestling news, previewing the latest wrestling shows. Always got special guests. We've had John on before. He was a great guest. So it goes live every single Saturday. So check that out. But True Hill Heat YouTube channel, like John said before, we have daily content. We got True Rewind, where we go back in time to the Monday Night Wars between WWF Raw and WCW Nitro. Me along with Romeo Anthony Colon and drunk guy JJ. We got reviews.
I like that guy. I like that guy. He's cool.
We got
Top guy
reviews.
JJ. What a character.
We got reviews for AEW, WWE, MLW, NWA, whatever promotion you enjoy, we cover it over on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. And if you don't like videos, you don't like content like this, you should. But if you don't, you can read my content over on Sportskeeda Wrestling, as I am a featured writer over there. But thank you, John, for being on here with me. You are an exceptional co-host for Powered 4 SP3, so I will definitely be back next week.
Great. Till then, folks, I've been John Scott. He's been SP3. We'll see you next week.
We are the art in the ring. We are the bright lights. We are the squared circle and the life of the fight. We are the spine buster, the pile driver and brutal knee. We are the thrill. We are the fight. We are Ricky Knight. We are the choke slam and the spear. We are the fans, the chanting and the flowing beer. We are Jess, Johners and John Scott. We are the crowd pleasers, the nail biters and the risk takers. We are here to capture for you to admire. We build the vision for you to explore. Here at Powered 4.